Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Namo Bhagavate Vaivasvataya Mrityave Brahma Vidyacharyaya Nachiketa Secha Esha Sarveshu Bhuteshu Gudhotmana Prakashate Drishyate Tvagriya Buddhya Sukshmaya Sukshmadarshibhi. Yeah. So, na prakashate means does not shine. What does not shine? Atma. Atma does not shine. For whom it does not shine? Yeah, buddhi-less people, it does not shine. So, the only thing that is required is buddhi. And here he makes a distinction. Elsewhere also he makes the same distinction. Very interesting when Adi Shankara makes this distinction. He says there are two kinds of buddhis. See, he is not talking about people, he is talking about the buddhis. This is how to differentiate the behavior from the person. This is the roots of it. He is not blaming the person. He is blaming the non-cultivation of the buddhi. The adequate medium is not there for this Atma to shine, and the buddhi is a very, sukshma medium, a very subtle medium. And so there are two kinds at least of buddhis available in the market. One is called Samskrita Buddhi. What is that? The one that attended the previous class, correct? Huh? The Buddhi that knows Sanskrit, Samskrita Buddhi? No. Samskrita means a well-cultivated Buddhi. A Buddhi that has been exposed to a lot of sattvic influences. Because it's all in how you cultivate. You start to, it's like any taste. That's how we ended the last class. You start, people say this, that the more one eats junk food, I don't know how they can use the word junk and food together in the same thing. Seems like an oxymoron, but anyhow, the more one eats these kinds of foods where all, from which all nutrients have departed, yasmat, then what happens is that the body starts to crave that only. And the same thing with this sugar. You have this one day, and then the next day you look for it after meal. And the third day you look for it before the meal. And then the fourth day you eat it instead of the meal. And it goes on like that, The bacteria in the stomach are very happy. This is what they thrive on. And so therefore, it's all about cultivation. Whether you talk about the taste for food, or the taste or the food that you give the stomach, or the food that you feed the buddhi with. Yeah. That is really what it is. And so here the Samskrita Buddhi is that upon which buddhi certain operations have been performed. Don't think of brain surgery. Buddhi here is not exactly brain. It is the faculty of intellection. That is what it is. And so here it is a Samskrita Buddhi is a buddhi upon which certain operations have been performed. What kind of operations? Because it has been converted from buddhi as it was, as it is, to buddhi as one wants it to be. Some of that cultivation happens because one is, has parents, and they're not going to, keep quiet if you do whatever you want. After a certain age, they're going to say something. So the buddhi keeps on getting more and more cultivated, and one learns how to behave in public, how to, not have a tantrum, in front of the store, grocery store, because you wanted something. All these things one learns, and one learns to somehow not let the buddhi follow all the ragas and dveshas however it wants. The buddhi is being tracked into a certain, a certain kind of a trajectory where it is available for you to decide what you want with it, to do with it. So if you have some ambitions, some decisions where you want to harness the buddhi to do what you want it to say, then the buddhi should be literally in your hands. You should not be a patti in the hands of the buddhi. That is basically, in the latter case, it's called vikrita buddhi, or rather prakrita buddhi. Prakrita means as nature made. Like those children we hear about, they had a wolf for the mother. That is how Rome was founded, by these two wolf-raised brothers. And then there are some people, there are actually studies that have been done about children who have got lost in the woods and presumed dead. Something had dragged the children away, they thought. But then later on, 14, 15 years later, they find this teenager, living feral, really wild in the woods. They have done extensive studies on the few people like this. These feral teenagers and feral children, presumed lost at a young age, and of course they have no one to talk to, and so they have lost all language. And then if they want something, they growl at you. They have just mimicked everything from whatever they have seen. And then the scientists have tried to bring them first in a cage, because that's the only way to catch them. And then, clean them up, cut their nails, wash their hair, give them clothes to wear. And what do? They tear off the clothes with their hands and teeth in 2 minutes. Faster than they can put them on, they tear them off. And then, even though they were able to, quote unquote, re-socialize one person, but it was not, it was not enough. And it was just that wilderness, they were not able to take it out. That so much was the effect of those formative years. So we know that those formative years are very important for the buddhi. But this is a different kind, that is of course a preparation. But this buddhi is a buddhi that is only looking for the Atma. That is how because it's the Sukshma of the Sukshma. So it is a buddhi that is submerged in sattvika pursuits. It's a highly refined buddhi. It has been, raised on all sattvic, exposed to only sattvic influences. So there is nothing loud or gross, not as in the sense of bad, but gross as in opposite of subtle. There is nothing that is gross about it. It's a very subtle buddhi. And that's how one cultivates the intelligence, where you are able to look at the universe and then immediately take some cues. What is the effect that I am having on the universe? Am I bothering somebody by being a certain way? Sometimes people don't think. You don't think. And then especially when you go to another country, some of the non-thinking ways of our culture are very much heightened. When I was in Japan, I was witness to this much more, thinking that in the United States people are not very sensitive to this. And in Japan I saw we had to take a bus from somewhere to somewhere, and the first 4 seats on either side were always empty, and there were people standing. It was not that there was enough room for people to sit. Then I thought, why are they not sitting there? See, since nobody was sitting there, I also did not sit there. I also said, okay, because I can't read Japanese, something was written, so I just went and sat in the back. But I was very curious why people are not occupying these 8-10 seats in the front. And even though there's only standing room, they were keeping them empty, because those are for the, pregnant women, the people who are on crutches, any kind of sickness, disability, elderly people. These first 8-10 seats were reserved. And people did not have a second thought. In our culture, it would be, let's see if somebody comes, then I will get up. That is our thinking in the United States. If somebody comes, let us see. But there, it's like you don't get to that place at all. This is not for me immediately. So there was a certain sukshmata I appreciated in that. There was something that nobody needed to enforce those rules. Nobody said if you sit there, you're going to be fined. I asked somebody, is there some penalty? Is that why people... No, it just said, please leave these seats for all these, and the criteria were listed below. And they showed also in sign language. When I looked closer, I could see there was a cane and all these things, and so you could tell. So this is what is the sukshmata, in the sense that, you look around, even if you're in a new place, you don't know what is going on, but you just sort of cause the least bit of disturbance. And you just blend in as much as you can, and you don't cause a furor, you don't try to draw attention to yourself all the time, and you don't try to sort of make so much noise, either by your presence or by your, vocal cords, that disrupts the situation. This is what is sukshmata. And how does this help the pursuit of the knowledge? Because if you are able to observe what is happening in the world, in a very subtle way, you are able to observe what is going on between people in a particular social milieu, and you can observe your own effect on the people. And you can also, even before somebody tells you to, you can desist from certain behaviors, seeing that somebody is uncomfortable because of that. So all these things make the mind more and more subtle, make the buddhi more and more subtle. And the knowledge of this Atma is the subtlest of all, correct? That's why it does not appeal to the large crowds. Even if you see photo of, Adi Shankara, sitting in the wilderness, there are 4 people surrounding him, So that is how it is. So this is not some kind of a crowd, this is not really meant for the crowd. Even though crowds might be attracted, it is meant for those who have cultivated the buddhi to sense that which is subtle. And here the Atma, of course, is the subtlest of everything. Anoho aniyan mahato mahiyan. And we have already seen that. Anor aniyan mahato mahiyan atma asya jantoho nihitam guhayam. Nihitam guhayam means it is as though gone into hiding. That same guha here, from guh to hide, is gudham. Guh. Again, first conjugation, irregular verb. Guh becomes guhati. And the past passive participle, gudham. Tam durdarsham gudham anupravishtam. That again another verse. Matva dhiro na shochati. And then, so this thing, Gahvareshtam Puranam, and then in another place it says, Tam akratuhu pashyati vitashokaha dhatu prasatat mahimanam atmanaha. So here again what is being iterated is that pashyati, the person who is able to quote unquote see the Atma, not as a seer, mind you, there is a difference, not as a seer, but as Atma Bhavena Pashyati, as seeing as though I am non-separate from the entire universe, that kind of an insight. It's not a sight, it's more of an insight which is non-separate from you. And so the one who has, that is the person with Sukshma Buddhi. And therefore here as a preparatory measure, Lord Yama is telling Nachiketa that drishyate tu, whereas, however, this Atma is seen, as good as seen, means known. Known without being morphing into the knower. Because as soon as you say, I know Atma, what happens? It goes away. Why? Because it has morphed into a status called knower. Then if you say Atma is the knower, then again you are still not getting off the seat of that knowerhood. So you see, but then if you say Atma is not the knower, then that means what? You don't know anything. So we are caught in a very interesting and a very subtle paradox. So you cannot say, I know Atma. And you cannot say, I don't know Atma either. If you say, I don't know Atma, you are brandishing your ignorance. And if you say, I know Atma, you are also brandishing your ignorance. So what to do? I know Atma, but not as an object, as the very nature of the subject. And then what else? I know Atma. If you say, then here I know it as the truth of the mind, the truth of the buddhi, the truth of myself. So agreya buddhya. Agreya means the buddhi that is going in front. Ragadveshas are not going in front. They are not the wheels that power the movement of the buddhi. Because if ragadveshas are in the service of the buddhi, then what happens? Then the buddhi is derailed. So the ragadvesha powered buddhi, no. The ragadvesha batteries have been taken off and the buddhi goes on its own solar power. Yeah, that's Savitur Varenyam. So it goes on that, its own power. And so it goes on that power, where the ahankara, the one that says this is my buddhi, directs it properly in keeping with the vision of the Shastra to dharmic activities. Dharma is the most subtle thing really. So you follow dharma, buddhi immediately becomes dharmic and very sattvic and very sukshma. So therefore, drishyate tu, but however don't come quickly to the conclusion that if it is not seen, Atma doesn't exist. Then we will be joining our friends. Who are they? The Buddhists. Yeah, who say that everything is a big zero. Yeah, very depressing. First, at least you thought I am a hero, at least in the home. But from hero to zero, yeah. From hero to zero is not enlightenment, really. That's not the teaching. I much prefer from ho-hum to so-hum. That is better. Because before life is ho-hum, everything is boring. But then the vision says you are that alone that you seek. So-hum, saha ahameva, so-hum. And so that is much better. Vedantic journey is much better because at least there is a fulfillment of what you are seeking. So drishyate tu agriyaya buddhya. By a buddhi that is agragamini actually. Agragaminya buddhya. So by a buddhi that is running in front, nishchayatmika buddhi, a buddhi that is going in front of the ragadveshas, forestalling all the unnecessary ragadveshas. And then, so what kind of a buddhi it is? Sukshmaya. So the possessor of such a buddhi is Sukshmadarshi. Sukshmadarshibhihi. By such Sukshmadarshis, this kind of a buddhi helps the internalization of this knowledge, the assimilation of this knowledge. Then, of course, a very important question arises. Now I know I have to make the buddhi, what? Sukshma. Now how to do that? How to make the buddhi sukshma? What should I do? Is there some kind of hair oil I can use? Coconut hair oil, Brahmi hair oil, Bringaraj, Tailam. There is all these hair herbs. And then so if I do that, then the buddhi immediately clarifies and then becomes sukshma. So what should I do? Yachet. Vang manasi prajnah. Tadyachet. Jnana atmani. Mahati niyachet. Tadyachet. Chanta atmani. What is this Chanta atmani? Huh? What is that? Shanta atmani. Shanta everyone knows. Shanti everyone wants. That's why Shanta everyone says, oh yeah, that. What is this Chanta Atmani? When the Rishi was, channeling this Upanishad, suddenly he had to sneeze. And instead of Shanta, he said Chanta, right? Wrong. Why is it Chanta? Sandhi has come. What kind of Sandhi? Yeah. Huh? Stohoshchu, nashchu, who? Never mind. Anyway, so a particular Sandhi where the dental is gone and changed to the palatal, changed to the palatal. So, Shanta tadyachet Shanta. So, that palatal, is the replacement is that it becomes Chanta. Anyway, so now that's why, but it is actually Shanta Atmani. So, this is a very interesting verse because it gives the way of attaining Sukshma Buddhi. What Lord Yama doesn't want you to do is to say everything gross is you gross. Don't want it. I am not this body. That's gross. I am not this mind. That's grosser still. I am not the senses. That's gross. I am just this subtle little, thing that is floating around in the universe, untethered to everything, untethered to ragadveshas, untethered to kartritvam. What is kartritvam? Sense of doership. Untethered to bhoktritvam. Nothing affects me at no time. Lord Yama doesn't want you to do that. Why? But it was sounding so good. Why he doesn't want me to do that? He doesn't want you to do that because that is called going to your happy place, i.e. dissociation. This is dissociation personified. When the going gets tough, the tough leave the buddhi and just dissociate. You float above the buddhi and you say, then you take comfort in the Vedantic Vakyas. Neti, 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 not this I am, not this I am, not this I am. And if you are a little more schooled or skilled, then you start chanting, singing the Nirvana Shatkam. How does that go? Mano buddhyahankara chittani naham. Naham means I am not the mind, I am not the buddhi, I am not the chitta, I am not anything. Nacha shrotra jihve, nacha grhana netre. I am not the senses. Nacha vyoma bhumihi, na tejaha na vayu. I am not even the vayuhu. I am not even the 5 elements out of which all this has come. And such people will only selectively take the first 3 padas, meaning the first 3 lines. The 4th line is just repeated, taken for Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. Let's just repeat it. In fact, that's the only message. Yeah. So you see, the negation, Vedanta is into negation, but it's a selective negation. It is not a negation that makes something into a stepchild and disowns the mind or disowns the body or disowns everything because this is not you. This is not me, so I'm going to leave this behind. There's nothing to leave behind. If you say I'm going to leave mithya behind, that is the biggest mithya. Because behind every mithya lurks its own satyam. Yeah, lurks satyam. There is no mithya without satyam. What is mithya?
It's a dependent reality.
It's a dependent reality. And that is the first definition of mithya. It's dependent on what?
Sat.
You, Sat. And what is the second definition of mithya? Neither here nor there. Yeah. Sat asadbhyam anirvachaniyam. That which cannot be categorically said to be true and then cannot be dismissed as non-existent. Neither existent nor non-existent. So like Trishanku. Who is Trishanku? Trishanku is a sage who tried to go to heaven with his good karma. But unfortunately he didn't have adequate good karma. And then just when he died, the story goes, this is just for fun, okay? There were 2 devatas, I forget what, Indra and somebody or whatever, Vishnu and Shiva or some, doesn't matter. So one of them, who was fond of this sage Trishanku, wanted to, siphon him to heaven And the other one said no, because he had some personal vendetta with the one that was wanting to bring him to heaven, beam him up. So as he was being beamed up, the story goes, the other one was beaming him down. So this one is beaming him up, and Trishanku goes, finally, all my good karma, so much yajna I did, so much ghee I put in the fire. Thank God I did not worry about the costs of rising ghee, because now I am myself rising. He was feeling, he was having a good feeling. And then the other Devata, the other celestial, who had nothing against Trishanku, who was having some issues with that, the one who was favoring him, said, let me tell you what I can do with my powers. And he was exercising a kind of a sinking influence. As a result, Trishanku was stuck in between. Poor Trishanku, correct? Neither here nor there. Stuck in between. And to give him credit, he made peace with it. How do we know? Because he composed a little verse that has made it into the Vedas. How does that go? Om aham vrikshasya reriva kirtiv prishtang gireriva urdhva pavitro vajiniva svavritam dravinagam savarchasam sumedha amritokshitaha iti Trishankor Vedanu Vachanam. This is Trishanku reiterating the vision of the Veda. He made peace with it. He said, this is my own personal heaven. It's okay. So this is called Trishanku Swarga, Trishanku heaven. That's what it is. So even when you are in limbo, you can make peace with it, and just say a silent prayer to Trishanku, who is a fantastic, what's that? A fantastic epitome of limbohood. Yeah, don't feel I'm not making any progress. Look, I'm stuck. So many Vedanta classes I'm attending. No transformation is taking place. What to do? Just think of Trishanku. Yeah. And you'll feel a lot better immediately. So that's why such people exist. So why did we get into the story of Trishanku? What was it illustrating? This is a quiz. Very good. So this was illustrating Mithya, which is neither here nor there. So you cannot say something that is Mithya exists. Like you cannot say pot is existent. Can you say pot is existent? You can, but it will not be true. Yeah, because if pot is existent, then I will invite you to take the pot from my hand, but leave me the clay. You take the pot, take it and run, but leave the clay with me. Is that possible? Say no quickly. No. And therefore, so then is the pot non-existent? No. You cannot say pot is non-existent. What am I holding in my hand if pot is non-existent? Yeah, it is clay. Yeah, all that Vedantic talk, forget it. Right now, if you show it to somebody outside, you stand in the street corner right here and then say, is this existent? What is this? Nobody is going to say this is clay. They're all going to say this is pot, correct? But the pot is not the final reality of it. So therefore, you cannot dismiss it as non-existent, because otherwise you will have to have your eyes checked. What is it that I am seeing that you are showing? If it is non-existent, what is this in your hand? But if if it is existent, then you should be able to, divest the pot from its substance, which is clay. So the pot depends upon clay, just like Mithya. This entire Jagat, the world of words and meanings, names and forms, depends upon a Sat, which is you. That conscious, sentient you. So therefore, this Mithya like Trishanku is neither here nor there. So even though you feel bothered and constricted by Mithya, there is a very nice way to look at Mithya. Mithya is equal to dependent reality, correct? Dependent on what? Sat. So wherever there is pot, what should there be?
Clay.
It's adhisthana, clay. Correct? Yeah, wherever there is pot, there should be clay. But what about if it's a brass pot? Okay, wherever there is brass pot, there should be what? Brass. Steel pot, there should be steel. Doesn't matter. It's substantive. Here we are only going to stick to clay, because if I start illustrating all the pots, then there won't be any place for me to sit. So that's why we only use clay pot. Pot made of clay. So then, is the pot far away from its Sat? Sure? Why it's taking so long to answer? Yes or no? Anybody feeling yes? No. Okay. Is the pot far away from its own truth? No. What is its truth? Clay. It's not far away from its own existence, and the source of its existence is clay. So in fact, even if the pot is riddled with ignorance of its nature and it says, I hate clay, I want to go away from clay, I hate everything that is clay. Why? Pot is a teenager, that's why. Rebelling against everything. So this teenage pot says, I hate clay. I'm not going to go to clay at all. Then what, can it, even if it says, I'm going to go on backpacking into the wilderness away from clay. What is the fate of the pot? Whatever it steps on is clay, correct? Yeah. And then whatever it's carrying is clay, it itself is clay, whatever it's going away from is also clay. It cannot get away from itself, really. So this is actually a very good, piece of news for the Vedantin, for the Vedantin wannabe. And what is the good news here? The good news is that wherever there is mithya, Sat is not far away. Sat is right there. Every mithya has to have its own Sat right there backing it up. Otherwise you won't even be able to see mithya. So you don't have to go the route of dissociation. Neither this body am I, nor the mind am I, the senses drive me senseless, so that I am not, and nothing I am nothing. Then again we go into the neighbor's territory. What is the neighbor's territory? Buddhist. Yes. I told you, hero to zero. And so, to stay within the Vedanta camp, you have to be able to do a selective negation, which is called, in the technical term for it is adhyaropa apavada. Apavada, negation. Adhyaropa, a selective negation of that which is superimposed. So not everything is negated. Only the superimposition is negated. So here if I negate pot, I know full well I am holding the clay. Even while holding pot, I can make the pot go away by just focusing on the clay. This is magic. This is magic. You don't have to have, long sleeves and make the, have sleight of hand and say, gone. That is not Indian magic. You can say, gone. In full view, you can change the person's view, attitude towards this pot so ultimately, so absolutely, so finally, that even if you want to see pot, you will continue to see clay. Yes. You will continue to see pot and clay together, because that clay cannot be, erased from this pot. You cannot divest the clay from this pot. All there is clay in the form of a pot. So you see how the mithya is quote unquote converted to satyam. Mithya is converted to satyam. Because really mithya is satyam. Oh, why you didn't tell me this before? Here I was giving up all the things I liked and doing all these things. Now everything mithya is satyam, so that means I can do whatever I want. Yes and no. Mithya is satyam, but what? Satyam is not mithya. That is what is the selective negation. Then what is satyam? You. You that is upholding all the names and forms without being any one of them. That is satyam. That is you. So you with body is mithya, correct? It's still satyam. You with body plus mind, still satyam. You with several bodies, still satyam. You with a mind that says never mind, still satyam. Just like this pot, clay plus one pot, still clay. Clay plus two pots, still clay. Clay plus 10,000 pots, still clay. In fact, the pot is an imposter, correct? The pot comes and goes. The pot, in other words, is as it were superimposed upon the clay. We are constrained to use prepositions like upon and locative case, etc. Really there is no upon. It's not that the pot is sitting upon the clay, like it is sitting on, on my wrist. It's not that the pot is, sitting inside the clay, or the clay is surrounding the pot. It is in fact only clay. The pot is a word and meaning with regard to a certain incidental form that the clay has taken. In fact, the pot is an incidental manifestation of clay. But you can't say it the other way around. The clay is an incidental manifestation of pot. No. Clay is intrinsic to the pot, because without clay, pot cannot exist. Without Satyam, Mithya cannot exist. But pot is an incidental manifestation of clay. Mithya is an incidental, manifestation of Sat, which does not affect Sat in any way. So this is how to do the negation. That everything that is Mithya ultimately has to coalesce, or has to, is not away from Sat. But Sat does not at any time get affected by Mithya or become Mithya. And so here, in this verse, Lord Yama gives a gradual way of resolving the Mithyas that come in the way of gaining this Sukshma Buddhi. Yachet. Everybody knows this. Yach means what?
One.
Yach means one?
Want.
Want. Place. Here, yeah. Yachet, give, place. And what do you place? Yachet. Yachet, vak. Vak, yachet. Place the vak. What is vak?
Speech.
Place the speech. Where should I place the speech? Manasi. Ha. What is manas? Mind. Place the speech in the mind. What? We'll see that very soon. And who is doing this? Prajnaha. The one who is, a knowledgeable person. Dhiraha. Yachet vag manasi. It becomes vang manasi. So yachet vang manasit prajnaha. And tad yachet. Tad means what here? Manas. Manas, yachet. That mind then you replace or place where? Buddhi. In the buddhi, you place the mind. You place the speech in the mind. You place the mind in the buddhi. And then, where do you place the buddhi? Yeah. Jnana Atmani. So, and the buddhi you place in Mahat, in Hiranyagarbha. We are just looking at the translation. Buddhi you place in Hiranyagarbha, which is the cause of all buddhis. And then what? Niyachet, then Tadyachet. That Hiranyagarbha, where do you place? In that Atma which is free of attributes, Shanta. This is just the translation. Okay? So Yachet here means Upasamharet, Pravilapayet. Upasamharet means resolve. It's not that I pack up the speech in a suitcase. It would be nice to do that once in a while. But it's not that I pack up the speech in the suitcase and then take a train to go to the mind and keep it at the mind, at that station. No. That's why the Bhashya and the Tika say Upasamharet or Pravilapayet means resolve the speech. The speech is gross or not? Yes, in more ways than one. And speech is tangible, it is heard. And so it is available for objectification of the ear. So objectification of the Jnanendriya, the sense organs. So speech is other than me, correct? It can be experienced as other than me, whether it's my own speech or other person's speech. So it is gross and it is tangible by the sense organs. What about the mind? Little less tangible, correct? That's why you say, I lost my mind, I don't know what happened, I must have lost my mind, I don't know why I behaved like this, I must have taken leave of my senses. You say that frequently, I don't know what happened to me, it completely slipped my mind. So the mind is difficult to catch, and especially when the meditation tells you, all instructions for meditation tell you to watch the mind. First you have to ask, where is it to watch? Is it there even? And this is what happened to Arjuna, because Bhagavan Krishna says, you please grab the mind and hold the mind. Have a say over the ways of the mind. And Arjuna says, Krishna, you must be totally kidding. This is not possible. If you ask me to grab a piece of air and hold on to it, that's easier. But I'm not able to do this because the mind is chanchala. Chalati eva means keeps moving. How do I catch it? By the time I think of catching it, it has frog leaped several thoughts. It's so many thoughts away. Where do I catch it? You see how subtle it is? Whereas speech you can catch. Yeah. So the speech that you can catch, and where is the speech originating from? Where is its sat? Where is the sat of the speech? Huh?
Mind and buddhi.
Mind. Just read. If you read, you'll know. Even if you don't know, just read. Yeah. So if you read the translation, it will say, where is the speech coming from?
The mind.
Well, and also it doesn't have to be a rote learning. The speech is coming from thoughts, is it not? What you think you say, many times one shouldn't, but one says everything that one thinks. So that shows what? That there is a connection of the subtle and the gross between the mind and the speech, the latter being grosser than its source. Correct? So the sat of the vak is the mind. Got it?
Yes.
You want me to repeat that? No. Okay. So the sat of the of the vak is the mind. The truth of the vak is the mind because that's its source. So just like the sat of the pot is what? Clay. And the clay is harder to delineate because if you only keep looking at the pot, if you only have pot buddhi, which is a gross buddhi, a buddhi that is oriented towards gross objects, then you are not going to see the clay. So therefore here also the speech is resolved into the mind. Yes. This could also be a meditative technique. We'll come to that later. The speech is resolved into the mind from where it came, from where it arose. And now if you can think of a speech that has been articulated. Oh, today is a very nice day. Very sunny, very bright, beautiful day. So these were the thoughts, correct? And the thoughts have now got a akara, a form given to them by the faculty of speech. Now imagine just thinking that and not saying that. That's a different, it's much more subtle. And so, that is what is the speech resolving into the mind. It's not that you try to take back every word and hunt, for all the alphabets that you have used and then put them back in the mind. It's not possible. It's just you can visualize the unarticulated thoughts, and then there is a beauty in the unarticulated thoughts because that means that they are not becoming social facts, and then you are just letting that go as an impression. Like the mind as a flowing river And the thoughts like leaves dropping. One leaf falls, but you are not following that leaf. Oh, where did it end up? Oh, poor thing, it ended up right here. Let me take a stick and help it along. Or, oh, it got submerged by a current. Let me bring it up. No, you are not invested in the leaf. And you are neither invested in the water. You are just witnessing the leaves dropping into the water by just a wayside tree in a stream that is a stream of consciousness, really. So the leaves just fall and then the stream goes, and every time you look at the stream, it's the stream of the present. Why? Because that water has already gone somewhere, correct? It might have reached the ocean, you don't know. So now you are looking at what? This water right here. And then next time you look at it, what are you looking at? This water, new water, new water, new water, new water, new water. Now water, now water, now. So too the mind. If one does not do either of these two things, one is to articulate each and every thought that arises. And sometimes people get into the habit of doing that. So much so that they keep talking to themselves. Nobody else is available, something they are muttering. And I meet people like that walking when I am walking. And there's something like this they are muttering, or sometimes they are articulating their thoughts all the time. And there is a certain helplessness to that pursuit. But here there is a little more managing of the mind, because the thoughts remain with me without needing to give expression. And when they are not allowed expression, the most mundane of them go away. That is the resolution here. Because they go away because they are not important. Did I lock the door? It doesn't matter. Did I do this? Does that person, should I still bear a grudge against that person? Yes, it has been 30 years, but 30 years is a short time. These kinds of thoughts, they're not helping. They're not helping your demeanor. Oh, what's going to happen in the future? And the favorite thought, how am I going to die? How do you know? You don't know. Do you know how you're going to die? No. And what if you think about it now, for the next 40 years, are you going to come close to understanding how you're going to die? No. So what's the use? So you see here, first at the level of articulation, I put a lock. I put a block there. It's very interesting, because when you go to the pre-industrial revolution, where they used to have these ships going, all these canals. In England, it's full of them, these canals. And then even here in this country, in the East Coast, there are some. These canals are there. And then and they have their own ways of which ship to prioritize. And if people are crossing, or if another ship needs to cross, then how do you make this ship stop here? So you just put a lock. In fact, that's what they are called. You lock that, you block that area off, you let the other ship go, and then you remove this lock, and then this ship goes. So like this, there are various locks. So the first lock is at the level of the tongue. Yeah. And that lock is just keeping the thoughts to yourself as a meditative exercise for now. And also as an exercise that brings forth that subtlety of the buddhi. So keep the thoughts to yourself. And the thoughts then also, they clamor for expression. They are not very nice beings. They say, come on, give me air time. I need some prime time to express myself. So all the thoughts, big and small, they keep pushing and clamoring for expression. What is the truth of the thoughts? Where did the thoughts come from? The mind. Where is this? What is the sat of the mind? You have to say buddhi. The faculty of intellection from which the mind is a manifestation, of which the mind is a functional component or a manifestation. And so here this is a little more of a knowing thing. a knowing faculty, which sometimes this is what makes you say, let's say you're engaged in an important job, like listening to Vedanta class, and thoughts of chocolate cake float in the mind. Obviously, this is not the right time to give expression to it and blurt out chocolate cake. When I say what is Sat of the mind, you will not say chocolate cake. Why? Because Shamadama has arrived and we will keep quiet about it. Okay? That is one level of subtlety. The next level of subtlety is, and you have done this many times, like when you're in an important meeting and some thoughts come, what do you say? Not now. This is not the time to think of chocolate cake. Yes, we are surrounded by all things chocolate. I'm sure if we listen quietly, maybe some things will come our way at the end of class. But, this is not the time to even look in that direction or to think about anything chocolate, correct? So who is that talking? It's not the mind, because the mind is saying, oh, chocolate cake. It is the buddhi, correct? Yeah. So here I have done one more level of pravilapanam, another subtle, I've gone to yet one more subtle level of seeing the mind just sort of collapse into the buddhi from where it rises. Because the buddhi is called Nishchayatmika. Nishchayatmika manovritti. It is a vritti of the mind, which is a decisive faculty. That is what is called buddhi. Nishchayatmika antahkarana vrittihi. Tattva bodha definition of the buddhi. And so Nishchayatmika means it's not wishy-washy, wibbly-wobbly. It is a very definitive thing. It will say, not now. This is not the time to think about cake. This is the time to focus on the class. And so you bring the mind back, you see. So the buddhi here is the boss. And it is Nishchayatmika. It is much more subtle. But it has corralled the mind. And actually another level of pravilapanam, upasamhara, has been done. A resolution. So the mind, what does it say? Okay, I'll wait. But not too long, huh? Because the mind wants to show off that. I'll wait, all right. I'll wait until this round of japa is over. Fine, do your silly japa. Afterwards you have to listen to me, okay? Yeah. So, here the buddhi now, for now, is the boss. Buddhi has silenced the mind in a very interesting way by kind of embracing it, by becoming bigger than it. That is the resolution. That is what is called pravilapanam. Something bigger, it has been, something smaller has been placed, as it were, into something bigger. And then that buddhi also has a dada, a boss there. And what is this buddhi here? If you really think about the buddhi, there is really, ultimately, it's all one buddhi. Because what? Because that's why you cannot copyright buddhi. This whole intellectual copyright is a spoof. What is this intellectual copyright? In India, we never had this intellectual copyright. That's why we are suffering now. Somebody wants to copyright mustard, somebody in Texas. Basmati rice has become Texmati rice. That copyright we lost. And yoga someone wants to copyright, bhoga someone wants to copyright. Because our thinking was that if it can arise in your buddhi, and if it then that means it can also arise in my buddhi. Why? Buddhi is a gift of Bhagavan. Yes. Wherever there is buddhi, there is Bhagavan. Yes. But only dharmic buddhi, okay? Yeah. So, buddhi is a gift of Bhagavan. So, buddhi is given, Mother did not know how to make buddhi. Mother gave birth to the child. If you ask the mother, how did you make the buddhi? Mother says, if I had that much buddhi, I would have given birth to a prodigy. Not this idiot, the mother would say. So, I don't have that much buddhi to make buddhi. My buddhi was also given, and this child's buddhi was also given. I neither made the lungs, nor the kidneys, nor the buddhi. If you ask the mother, did you make the heart? No. Did you make the kidneys? Do you know how to make kidneys? She will say, I know how to make rajma. What is rajma? Kidney beans I know how to make. Kidney I don't know how to make. And so this way, this buddhi is a very interesting thing. So buddhi is given. And usually, even though one may think I'm a big genius, and you have this brilliant thought, sometimes under the influence of so many things, and then you write it down and you think it's a huge thing. And then the next morning, when daylight and a little more buddhi dawns, then you look it up. Then what do you find? It has already been thought of by several people. Yeah. So that shows that this buddhi is already connected. There is a kind of a subtle connection, subtler than this buddhi even. So much so that this buddhi refuses to discern that because it's afraid that it will become small. The ahankara that's in charge of this buddhi says, no, don't look at all buddhis as one buddhi because you will be no one. Don't do this pravilapanam. Up till here it was okay, it was sounding nice. But stop here. Yes, it shows a big stop sign and says, don't do this resolution. Because if you do this resolution, what is unique about you? Because if all buddhi is one buddhi and it doesn't belong to you, it actually belongs to Bhagavan, where does that leave you? It does not leave you anywhere. And ahankara says, this I notion says, I have worked very hard to give you a little few scraps of identity, and to make you famous. At least if you Google yourself, then you find that you are there. So at least I have done that for you. And so I have made you famous and I have given you a few things. So don't try to snatch this. Don't try to, try to do this final resolution that this next to final resolution that everything is Bhagavan, everything is, one. This kind of oneness, what is it going to do? You will be like one of amongst a crowd. Nobody, everybody is the same. I have given you uniqueness. This is what the ahankara argues. Buddhi also has a few things to say. Or buddhi should have a few things to say. What should the buddhi say? Buddhi should say, yes, but you have also alienated me from the whole. Yes. Yes, you have given me a little bit of sunshine and a personal spotlight to stand under. But then the rest of the whole stage is dark. And here I am in the middle of a monologue, to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether I should suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous karma in silence, or should I look for other people also doing it? I don't see anybody else. I have this alienating personal spotlight. I can't see the audience, it's too dark. I can't see my co-actors. I can't see Bhagavan. I can't see anything. And all this ahankara and this carving out a niche for myself as a unique individual, all it has done is alienate me from the stage, from the co-actors, from the audience, from the director, from the producer, from everybody. And here I stand saying, Darshan kab doge? When are you going to give me darshan? Where are you, O Bhagavan? I suffer from this alienation. So if at this level one is resisting the pravilapanam, the resolution of the buddhi into all buddhis as a manifestation of Bhagavan, it is a very natural resistance. Nothing to feel shy or upset about it. If one is resisting and one knows it, clap your hands because that if you know you are resistant, that means what? The resistance cannot stay for too long because its truth has been called. It has to, skulk away like a cockroach. As soon as you turn the light on, what happens? All the insects go under the chairs and couches in dark places. They go and hide. So too this imposter buddhi, this ahankara which has married the ahankara and says, now we are going to just stage a dharana. We are going to just alienate ourselves and become famous. There is a big predilection. And that resistance is in keeping with the ahankara. But the ahankara has to be divorced from the buddhi by getting in touch with the sakshi of all buddhis, the sakshi of my own buddhi. Ahankara, you have to file a divorce from the ahankara because this is a codependent marriage, horrible marriage, where you are enabling the ahankara and the ahankara is enabling you to just keep on doing this and keep on and then, oh, but you are famous. Where? In your house. That's all it is. Yes. This is not about fame or shame, because that's what ahankara gives. 1 minute fame, another minute shame, nothing is enough. So one is bouncing around from shame to fame, and therefore this buddhi has to be seen as a manifestation of Bhagavan. And when I see this buddhi, my buddhi, everyone's buddhi, as that one shine, tat savitur varenyam, bhargo devasya dhimahi, that dhiyaha naha, you see, it's a collective dhi. Dhiyaha is, that dhiyaha is plural. That's why it is plural. It's one. That faculty of correct choices, correct thinking, that is what I have to endow and help myself with. That is why the Gayatri prayer. And so this dhiyaha, all these dhis are manifest in this jagat, in this large, vast order, which includes the psychological order, the order of knowledge, not, paramarthika knowledge, but the order of aparavidya, all the orders which are manifest, and my ability to discern those orders are also within that manifestation, and my ability is equal to the other person's ability. It's that same buddhi in all. Then I am no longer looking at buddhi. What am I looking at? Mahat, which is Hiranyagarbha, which is that creative potential of Bhagavan. I am looking at Bhagavan's buddhi. And hardly that is alienating. That's not alienating. If I am saying my buddhi, if I am joining my buddhi with Bhagavan's buddhi, then there is no alienation. Where is the alienation? It's all an embracing. I become bigger than this tiny little buddhi that I have to keep looking for and keep feeding ginkgo to remember even my own name. Always taking ginkgo and gotu kola, this buddhi. Who wants this buddhi? I'd much rather, do this pravilapanam, do this resolution in Bhagavan and say, that is the buddhi, that is the source of my buddhi. There is no more alienation, no more second guessing, no more smallness, no more, nothing really. Only a feeling of shanta, yes. And then that is not the end, that's a relative. And here is a state of fearlessness, And this is a relative fearlessness, because I know that my buddhi is under the rubric of Bhagavan. So even if I get Alzheimer's, it's still Bhagavan. You see, that is the state of fearlessness. But then fearlessness, to become one's own nature, one has to do one more level of pravilapanam. And what that is, we will see when? Next Wednesday. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Yeah. Any questions? Why do Buddhists seem so relaxed even though they believe in emptiness? That's a very good question. That's because they meditate a lot. And in the meditation, there is a certain, shantata. There is a certain shanti that is gained. So you become immune to over time of meditation, you become immune to being affected by all the things that come and go. And you are a little more centered, although they may not use the word because they feel that the center is empty, but nonetheless you are more close to yourself. We would say that's why they appear to be calm. Yeah. Other thoughts? Yes.
Is this the definition of meditation? Is this what, because when we use words or talk about meditation, we
Yeah.
always say, just watch the thought.
Yeah.
But
You
we'll-
can say this is I wouldn't say this is a definition. I would say this is a guided primer.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's what I would say. It's a step-by-step primer to getting into not a meditation. You can use it for that, but more in the sense of understanding that even if I'm not meditating, I am meditation itself. Yeah, that's what it is. I am that. I'm not a state that comes and goes. I am that itself. That's what it helps one to understand. Other questions? When are we getting prasad?
Oh.
That's the question, right? Was that your question? Huh? Yeah.
And so practically it is in the process of walking in the world and I am this and I am that. That's the same.
Yeah, that's the same. Everything is me. It's an extension of me. Okay. All good things have a beginning.